Okay, for this next video, I'm going to talk about this website called TrueCar, and this is one website of several that can help you actually find cars. I'm going to focus on used cars, although you can absolutely do everything I'm talking about. You can absolutely do the same process for a new car. So I'm going to focus, like I said, on used cars. So here we have about 52, over 52,000 cars available right now, though there's this little check mark, include non-local listings. And so right now I have it set to McAllen. I put in the generic zip code here. If you're willing, let's say you're going to visit someone in San Antonio or something for the weekend, and you're willing to look at San Antonio cars or whatever. There's many, of course, zip codes in a big city, but find one for City Hall or whatever. Anyway, and whatever you're comfortable with, right? And so in this case, I'm going to take this out. So these are essentially like all the cars in America that are available, basically, through TrueCar. So I don't want that. Now we have, about 1,200. And so I would definitely suggest to expand it, just to include, like, let's say Brownsville or what have you. Maybe expand it a little bit more if you want to include Corpus. And so if you do want to include San Antonio, so Corpus is somewhere in the middle there. So I would go to 250 for San Antonio. Maybe Houston is like, let's say move it to about 500 or so. Though it's not that far, but I'm just saying, for the listings wise. Whatever you're willing to do, right? So, you might be willing to expand your search if you're willing to travel to give yourself a better chance of finding what you are looking for. And so you can choose a certain make, which is like a brand. The only issue there is with this website, is I can't compare other brands or what have you. If I just go to one make, then it's just going to give me those. And it's fine. If you already did your homework and you already know, I want a Mazda or a Lexus or a Toyota or whatever, that's fine if you want to go ahead and go with that. Otherwise I would just say kind of see what's out there and kind of leave that blank for now. And later you can definitely hone in. So you find 3 Jeeps or whatever, and then you could go, okay, let me look at just Jeeps now. And you could look at the, that brand and so on. So, you start with certain things like this, like a body style. If you know that you want a certain something or other, like what's a coupe, what's a sedan, Google those kind of things so you're comfortable with knowing what we're talking about here. There might be a minimum number of years, that you're like, I don't want to go further than, because of safety features and so on, certain makers, certain years, certain brands, or you Googled it and it's like, oh, stay away from 2000 to 2010. But then after that, the car improved. So you want to go to 2011 or whatever works for you. So if you're ready for that, go ahead and do that. If you're not, just leave it blank, I definitely, for myself, I'm going to definitely slide this over price-wise here on the left. Because, and so I don't want to, miss out on something just fantastic that might be another $1,000 or $2,000. So my real budget, let's say, might be for a college kid or myself or whatever, might be like 19,000, but you might want to slide it over a tiny bit just to kind of again, you don't want to miss out on something wow, that might be worth it, mileage, whatever you're comfortable with, used to be oh my God, you want to avoid anything past a certain amount. It's 2023 and they're making, certain companies are making really good cars that can last 200,000 miles, 300,000 miles, no problem. If you take care of them, certain companies, like a Mazda, like a Toyota, like a Lexus, and a few others. So whatever you're comfortable with, you don't want to miss out on a car that has 95,200 miles if you do this, So whatever you're comfortable with, maybe add a little bit more, just, in case you might miss out on a certain gem. So nevertheless, whatever you're comfortable with. I would leave the color out unless you really just, it's maybe a birthday gift or something and you really have a specific color that you're looking for. Otherwise, I would just leave it blank and be sort of hopefully the car's not hideous, and just kind of be okay with whatever the universe throws at you, right? So, maybe you're going for something with skull colors or whatever. So other than that, I would just leave it blank though, and just see what happens. The price rating is right here. I usually like, of course, we want something that's an excellent price, that's very generous to the buyer, maybe even a great price. So as a seller, I'm gonna. There's an algorithm, and it's not perfect, but I'm going to, as a seller, like I really want to sell this car, and I'm going to offer a great price, according to Kelley Blue Book and so on. Maybe even an excellent price. It's like, wow. Though, we all define things differently. So I normally initially leave it blank, and I even want to see, like, let me see the high price ones either. Also rather, because it might not necessarily be that for what you're looking for. So, or just to see, like, oh yeah, okay, that's a high price. I agree. I need to avoid that kind of thing at a different website or whatever. But even a fair price, I mean, it's a fair price, like, right? So you might want to include that. And if you're a little more picky, you can certainly maybe go with those two. But I wouldn't just. We want an excellent price, of course, but I everyone defines things a little bit differently, and there's an algorithm and so on. So, it might be at that edge of between great and excellent, right on the border. So I would choose both of those at least. And you're welcome, of course, leave it blank. Popular features. This is cool and everything, but here's the deal. Like, my suggestion is, don't click on any of these because you want them. Click on them because you must have them. We want most of these things, but if you don't need it, like if you don't really if it's not a must-have, leave it blank. Because if, let's say, you want a front cooled seats because, good Lord, we live in Texas and it's crazy out here. But I mean, yeah, then again, if you must have it, absolutely, that click on that, and none of the listings will be more than 41 because this is your must-have. Whereas if you're like, I can live without it, like I can live without Bluetooth, sorry. Because I can buy a very nice car that maybe doesn't have Bluetooth, but I can go, in next paycheck or whatever, and add, take it to the sound place or whatever, and have a local person add a different stereo with a Bluetooth or something like that. But then again, if you're shopping for like a teenager or a college kid or whatever, and you're like, what, I gotta have a backup camera, which a lot of cars do these days, so that's good, and so on. And so whatever your must-haves are, by all means, click on that. And so get to know. If you're not sure what this means, make sure you Google it separately and whatever. And we might think we know what they mean, but we may or may not really know. And so for now, I'm just going to go ahead and choose. There's a lot of options with a backup camera that are actually good and great and excellent price. And so, but again, if you're looking for certain safety features like lane keep assist or what have you, there's still quite a few out there. All right, and now the condition history, you can go with like no accidents that are reported. There might have been a tiny little fender bender that was, or maybe they hit a mailbox or whatever, but that was not reported. But maybe you're like, you might miss out on something really great that maybe was in one car crash. And I say car crash, but again, they might have hit a fence or whatever. Or yeah, sure, a little fender bender that was super minor, and you might be missing out on something if you insist that there's none. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I certainly prefer no accidents. If you can find a car like that for yourself, peace of mind, and like possibly if you're gonna sell the car, you just need something for like 4 years, and then later on, when the kid's done with college, you're hoping to sell it or whatever. So that would help you, right? Possibly, if it has no crashes or whatever. For the title, I don't want to mess with salvage. Like, why is this car on sale on the side of this road? Why? I mean, it's a nice car. Like, it's a super nice price. Well, because it was flooded. It was underwater in Louisiana or Houston or whatever. It was, damaged by hail or damaged by whatever, beyond by flooding rather, or something very damaging. So there's all this right there. With there's theft, or the frame was damaged, which is kind of like, I would definitely steer away from that. I would honestly steer away from all of these. Give me a clean title. I don't want any of these kind of cars. Personally, that's definitely my advice there. The ownership. I mean, this 80-year-old man had the car for 20 years, and kept it in the garage, and it was just one owner, and just drove it real slow and not that often, low miles, and that's great. That might be the dream, and that's fine if you want to go for that. Or maybe the two or less might be okay, or really just any number, whatever. However, I don't want to say desperate, but whatever your needs are, if you insist on that. But they might have two. Like, it might be like Grandpa gave it to granddaughter, and sure, there were two owners. She drove it to college, and now she's graduated, and boom, now it's for sale. Maybe even three owners, because Grandpa gave it to the son, and he never hardly even drove it, but he eventually put it in the daughter's name, and so there might be three owners, but in fact it was just like one family, basically. So whatever you're comfortable with, I would just leave it there. But I mean, if you want to be able to say like, oh, there's only one owner, theoretically, the idea is, okay, one owner, well, they hopefully took care of it. Two or three owners, it's like, you start wondering, like, maybe there was something wrong with the car, and so that's just something to consider. Fleet vehicles that a company might have used, or rental car vehicles. On one hand, people maybe mistreat rental cars. On the other hand, rental cars have really good maintenance because they get in, they get cleaned, they get maintained, theoretically in a perfect world. So I've purchased a rental car, a former rental car in the past from Enterprise, but I mean, it's been a long time. So it's up to you. If you're comfortable with it, that's fine. It's already checked off. If you're not, then just uncheck it. So the transmission, maybe whoever the car's for, if they don't drive stick, of course you're going to have to go with automatic, let's say. Maybe you're looking for yourself for something a little fun and you want that manual, so then you will go with that. Then there's other stuff that's not necessarily, drive type. Like if you insist on having a four-wheel drive, of course, if you need it for you're at a ranch or just for fun or whatever it is, right, this is where you find it. Most cars are front-wheel drive these days. Older cars a little bit rear-wheel drive and so on. All-wheel drive is could be seen as like a safety feature because on a rainy day, that sort of thing, it might really just add to that safety. And so by adding all-wheel drive, it's 39 cars available. Let me uncheck it real quick. If we don't add it, then we have 619 listings so far. If we don't add it, and so that includes a backup camera and the good and great and excellent price. But I'm going to go ahead, so I mean, if you do add it, you're down to 39 cars. Again, if you insist on having it, by all means, or if you have if you want a four-wheel drive, of course, if you must have it, of course, click on that. The engine, I mean, it's the size, is it a 4-cylinder, is it a 6-cylinder, an 8-cylinder? You want to consider mileage and things like that. If you want a hybrid vehicle, here's where you choose that. If you want a plug-in electric vehicle, there's two available in this area, and so on. So you can definitely do that. And so one way to do it, let's say, is right now it's showing you everything, including, let's say, 10 hybrids, but let's say you don't want a hybrid. And so go ahead and click, let's say, 6-cylinder. Maybe I'll consider 8-cylinder, and 4-cylinder I'll consider as well. And so by doing that, we just lost a few because we're not counting the electric cars, and about 12 cars less or something available. But we were thinking, okay, I don't want a hybrid, or I don't want an electric vehicle. And so that's why I reduced it to a few. Then again, if you're okay with electric or hybrid, of course, by all means, include those. Again, the interior color, I mean, unless it's something really hideous, I'm talking, thank God there's no yellow cars in the interior, right? Anyway, so unless it's something hideous, I mean, it's not necessarily something that I would choose right now. I would just hope that the universe will throw something at me that's got something decent. if you have a certain fuel in mind, again, the hybrid is available here, gas, electric, and so on. So right now there's no electric per se, though there are hybrids available. If you're looking for diesel 4x4 truck or whatever, here's your chance right here to do that. And so otherwise I would just leave it blank. The bed length, like for a truck, honestly, I've seen a lot of people choose, like, let's say short, but in fact it's long, or they claim it's long and in fact it's short, or whatever, or a standard, let's say. But depending on how meticulous you want to be, but the people seem to make mistakes with this when they list it. So honestly, I would just leave it blank. The cab type, if you need something for work or whatever else, a truck for the ranch or whatever, and you're going to carry folks, then there you go. So, and so you get down to these listings, and so we have 602 listings, and they're going to show you the best match, and they're also going to show you like these sponsored ones. So right now it's the best match, whatever the algorithm is. Not that that's horrible. There's also something called the best deal, which is like good mileage, good on gas, etc., etc. Whatever the algorithm says, best deal. Of course, you're going to look at price. Maybe that's the number one thing. Like everything else is great, but right now I'm just looking at price, or maybe mileage. Maybe you have a certain thing that you're like, you know what, I really need certain mileage. So let's just go with price for now. And so, from the 602 listings, there's, it's going to be low to high, but they're still going to keep these sponsored ones that are like, maybe a little more expensive. Then we get into like, okay, so now it's the lowest is listed here now. And if you're like, I don't have time to look at 600 cars, well, you could say, okay, you know what, I'll look at 192. Let's just look at the excellent price, and maybe you might want to add another feature, like, you know what, it is Texas, maybe I do want those cold seats, because good Lord, parking sensors or whatever. Maybe you insist on a third row for, I don't know, for an SUV or what have you. So without the cold seats, there's, in fact, 28 vehicles that have a third row but don't have cold seats. So this is TrueCar, and so whenever let's say I would stay away from this Ford Focus, but I might think about a Hyundai Sonata. It's got, a decent amount of miles, not the lowest I've ever seen, but I'm not too afraid, though. I think the warranty's up to 100,000, so I would stay away from this Nissan, and I have to read up on the Buicks to see how they're doing, although it's a little bit high here, but this is a nice price, perhaps, though. What did a 2014 premium front-wheel drive come with, right now, maybe the first thing that I'd really give some serious consideration to, closer to this Hyundai Elantra, which I'm not loving the mileage, but, it does have a 10-year warranty, though it might be 100,000. So, nevertheless, let's click on it and just to see what it looks like when you click on one of these cars. And so, it tells you like what the basics, right? The minimal options and so on. No accidents are being reported. It's a one owner, so it's a very quick snapshot. Of course, you have the photographs of the car, hopefully indoor, inside as well. The condition and so on. So if you could either click here, or you could just kind of scroll down. But the mileage, it looks pretty good, and so on, and it verifies that it's a clean title. Some of the features that it has, a blind spot system, and so on. A lot of safety features, and then the actual standard features, and it keeps going here. And so if you're ready for this, then you see this unlock dealer details. And so you unlock it by giving your either phone number or email. I'll go ahead and click on it, and so sure enough, for now, they're going to take your name and so on, and 4 little steps, you'll get the dealer details, and they will text you. A lot of it's like almost like a robot system, like where it's not necessarily human. But that you get the ball rolling. If you're very interested in the car, you definitely ask for a TrueCar price and here on the website. You don't have to talk to a human being to ask for it. Um, and now they do have this auto check report, which is, this whole company. I've used it. It's interesting. Just look at it. It's not too expensive, but it's just kind of that peace of mind you're looking for that you really need and stuff. I'm not saying this is the best deal on the internet. I'm just saying right here, this is kind of one of the cars that I might, consider looking at. And yes, the mileage is high. I would love it if it was a Toyota or a Mazda or a Lexus for that kind of mileage. But if you're thinking, you know what, I just need it for a couple years or so for my kids to finish college or something, this might not be a bad deal. Though it definitely looks like they overused it on mileage-wise. It might have been a rental car or something, because that is a lot of miles. The seller notes, I'll click on that right there. They're oftentimes there's nothing there to see, but then here they are. So oftentimes there's not much, but oftentimes it's just also repeated as well. Though there might be something around, about this and that, right? So the price, it does say here, right? It does not include the tax, tag, title fees, which is definitely legit. Okay, we can't fight that. That's not a haggle thing. It's just, of course, we got to pay taxes and so on. However, the dealer documentation fee, that is not necessary, and so that is something that you can say, listen, can we do half of that or whatever? Because honestly, this is just extra money in their pocket, and it's not a horrible thing. Because yes, they washed it and cleaned it and whatever, and they do have employees that they need to pay. However, it's not necessarily something that you need. Anyway, so it tells you kind of their little spiel right here, and so I'm not gonna click on it because I don't want dealers to call me because I'm not trying to buy a car right now. But eventually you will sign up or sign in, and let them know that you're interested in this particular car. If you're totally in it, then there's a certificate that says, boom, this is your TrueCar price. You walk into the dealership with that, and they're like, okay, boom, here's the taxes, etc., etc. The only issue would be like, oh, do you want warranty? And you just say, no, thank you, and that's it. And end of anything. No, there is no like, oh, let me talk to the manager. There's none of that BS. So hopefully this helps.